My name is John Passfield, and the title of this reading will be John and Santa, the Cowboy Short Video 19, the Anthem. So here's the cover of the novella, John and Santa, the Cowboy Shirt. As writer John Passfield is driving home from a December book discussion meeting and thinking about the Christmas topics that were discussed, in particular Dickens, who wrote a novella that transforms the world's conception of Christmas, he suddenly finds himself sitting in a sleigh, pulled by Rudolph and 8 tiny reindeer. What an excellent opportunity to ask Santa about a 70-year-old puzzle, the mystery of the missing cowboy shirt. So anthems, what are they? Anthems are imagery in the mind of the main character, which are designed by the mind of the main character to illuminate the events that the main character is living through. There are 4 anthems in this novella. So imagery is a flashlight. If you're moving through dark territory, which could be the events of your life, and you want to know where you're going and what it all means, you shine a flashlight on it. So imagery can help to illuminate events. Well, the first one is about an ancient Greek. Let's go to page 9. Here we are. Just a little verse. It was a story of an ancient Greek. Now that's on page 9. Now there are how many pages? 9 to 15 if you do the math. 6 pages of imagery to be illuminated by an anthem. So then we get the next item. A crusty old fellow he must have been. Then we go 20 to page 23, which 15 to 23 is what? 8 more pages of imagery of the main character's life. And here's a little flashlight of imagery shining on that imagery, on those events. He carried a lantern around in the middle of the day. Then we go all the way to page 31 from page 23. And the mind of the main character shines another little light. He would light it in the Agora at noon. Now the Agora is the marketplace in ancient Athens. Why would you light a lantern at noon? And then page 40, we get the final item here, trying to stay light in a world which he saw as very dark. Well, visually, it's not dark in Athens at noon, but there's something that he doesn't understand, that he considers to be dark, that he'd like to understand. So how does imagery light up events and show meaning in them? That's the question. Okay, clutch the toys. Here's the first one in the second anthem. So an anthem, a national anthem, is kind of a standard by which we live, or a set of standards by which we live. A personal anthem is that too, a set of standards by which we live, by which we think, a measuring stick, a yardstick, the way to measure something else. What's a yardstick good for? Well, nothing in itself, but once you lay it beside something, you learn something. It tells you something. Clutch the toys you receive at Christmas. Now that's on page 11. We have to go all the way to page 18 to get another increment, if I can find it here, of that image. Hold them loosely and they might be gone. So clutch the toys you receive at Christmas. Hold them loosely and they might be gone. Sounds like a warning. Page 26. Baba Yaga is on the prowl. Babayaga. And then page 34, flipping pages here, follows Santa without him knowing. So there's some creature who's following Santa around when Santa gives gifts away. And 44 is the next one, and the last one steals the toys that Santa leaves behind. Well, steals the physical toys that Santa leaves behind. Or if Santa represents some kind of spiritual force, What's this force that seems to be working to undermine the good work that Santa does? So you might not think of that, but when an image suggests that, then you're kind of aware, oh, there might be a force that undermines the force that Santa represents. I didn't realize that until I shone an image flashlight or searchlight on the Santa story. That's how imagery works. Okay, I'm searching here for 49 while I'm talking, and I think I've found it. Okay, Dead Moroz, D-E-D-M-O-R-O-Z. Okay, D-E-D-M-O-R-O-Z, page 49. Dead Moroz was deeply troubled. 58. Oops. Here it is. It had snowed the night before. Dead Moroz was deeply troubled. It had snowed the night before. 68. 10 pages of imagery that the mind of the main character would like to illuminate, to understand, to hold a measuring stick up against. He was looking for his granddaughter, and then we go to 77. Where is it here? Okay. She always wore a cap of snowflakes, and then 87, he was poking with his magic stick in the snow. So just as you hold a yardstick or a ruler up to something to measure it, to find something out, you also poke a stick down in the snow to try to find something that's missing. And that's it. Sometimes dreams don't come right out and tell us what they're all about, but they kind of indicate patterns or ideas. And that's what's being done here. It's very obscure, but that's how imagery can work. Imagery can work like dreams, where you just don't know what the dream's all about, but it's trying to tell you something, Okay, here's another one. It was the sword of the unconquered sun. That's on page 52. We go all the way to 61, which is 9 pages. And we get another increment. He raised it over his defenseless opponent. Then to 71, which is exactly 10 pages more. Imagery that needs to be illuminated according to the mind of the main character. He raised his arm and prepared to strike the final blow. Then 80, which is 9 more pages of imagery, which he's seeking, his mind is seeking to illuminate. But the sword froze in his hand. His arm refused to move. And then 89, the final little item, the sun conqueror would live to fight again next year. Now, none of that makes sense on the surface. It's deep down in the mind like a dream or a nightmare. It's seeking to illuminate something that's much more clear, but which has more potential meaning than is known at the moment. So, there are 2 levels of presentation in literature. There are the literal level and the figurative level. The poetic novel has both the literal and the figurative level. The prose novel, though, has only the literal level. And poetry has only the literal level. So here's an example of a figurative level of presentation from a poem. 1 line. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower. That's a line from Dylan Thomas. It has a figurative level of presentation, but it has no literal level. It's an image, but what's it about? There's no indication of a character who is going through a daily event or even an extreme routine, such as a dangerous sea voyage or hacking his way through a jungle. What we have is simply a figurative level of presentation, a figurative level of thought in the mind of the thinker of the poem. We know that neither the speaker nor any character is being driven through the ground as is a flower by the mysterious force that we call nature. What we have here is what I call deepening imagery, which we can apply if we wish to our own literal level of experience. We as individuals can appreciate how our own life is either in tune with the force in nature that wants all things to be green, as the line says, or how our own life has become out of tune with this force in nature that wants all things to be green, the force that through the green fuse drives the flower. So we can apply it to our own lives, but in the poem, there's no character with a life we can apply it to. Well, that's how poetry can work. The prose novel, a different kind of literature though, presents a literal situation and a figurative imagery. A character goes through an experience, whether everyday or extreme, without any suggestion as to how this might apply to the life of the person who's reading the novel. So in the prose novel, you have a character going through a situation, but you don't have any imagery. There's nothing trying to eliminate it, like a flashlight or a floodlight would illuminate these events. So, okay. The poem only the imagery, the prose novel only the story, the poetic novel story and imagery. That's the point. The poetic novel combines the attributes of the prose novel story only and the poem imagery only. It has a literal surface, a character goes through an interesting experience, and it has deepening imagery. Imagery that does not have a literal application to the main character in the novel, but which does suggest concepts which can be applied to his or her situation by the reader, and which in turn the reader can apply to himself or herself. So John and Santa, the Cowboy Shirt, is a poetic novel. It has a story. A fellow finds himself sitting beside Santa and traveling the world and looking at various sights or visions, and it has imagery such as dead Moreaus and a fellow in a marketplace with a lantern at noon and so on. So this is the novella of John and Santa, the Cowboy Shirt. It's found on Amazon. It's found on my publisher's website, roxmillspress.com. 2 books are found on my website, johnpassfield.ca. You can have them for free to read just by clicking on the icon. So thank you very much for watching this video.